And I'm going to introduce, probably for a few of y'all, but probably to most of you, just present Miss Trice Edney. This woman is a veteran journalist. Let me just tell you, you all read the story, you all read her information here. But I knew her from Richmond with the Free Press or the Afro as a journalist, newspaper journalist. And I always enjoyed reading the stories that she wrote and reading the information that she shared. And she has interviewed hundreds of people, been on CNN, interviewed families after Katrina, did stories about 9/11. Just a wealth, a world-renowned journalist, a Harvard graduate, a product of the Louisa schools. So that's right. All right. But the world is small. Last year, August, I think it was, at the NAACP, the Summer Heritage event that they have every year, I walked up and I saw this woman. No, first, no. We were looking at trying to find a place for our resource center. And I walked across the street on, I won't say Main Street, I don't know what street it was now, but what, West Street? West Street. And this woman came up, and I said, Lord, something about her face. I know this, I know her, but I couldn't put it together. And I still didn't put it together that day. And then later on, months later, in fact, last summer in August, I saw her again. And she said, my name is Hazel Edney. And I said, Hazel Edney, the reporter, the writer? She said, yes. She is a woman who I have known as a journalist for years. And the connection, which I made again, she and my husband's not with us right now, but she and my husband was a community development person, a person that believed in the empowerment of communities. And he and she were close. And it just did my heart, it has warmed my heart to reconnect with her after these many years. So I introduce to a few of you and present to Louisa, your daughter, Hazel Trice Edney.
Oh, thank you, Cassandra. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
How amazing she is. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. And good afternoon, everybody. I won't be before you long. Sometimes I would rather just do what my sister did, the acting and doing all of that kind of drama. I love doing that. But the Lord has given me a little bit of a word this afternoon, and so they told me to come in my own way. I don't want to belittle what he has given me, but I'm trying to lighten it up. I'm going to try to lighten it up. I just thank you, Cassandra. Calendar Ray, your husband, Freddie, was a deeply wise man. And as a young reporter in Richmond, I would go and sit in his presence as he was head of the housing authority. And he would tell me so much about what was going on there. And I see so many people that I love and I know. I'm sorry. And so I just want to thank you, for the gift of him. You gave him to the community and the Lord has taken him away, but he left so many seeds among us. And I just thank you, Sandy. Where's Sandy? When she came to my door, she said, they say you do something. That's what she said to me. She came to my door on West Street and I was like, okay, well, come on in. She introduced herself and talked about the organization. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? She said, well, they say you do something. And so I'm going to do something today. Minister Morgan, Avery McCoy, all of those who have come on this stage before me, You have been so incredible. Dr. Knuckle, oh my goodness. Such depth. Ernest Porter and Charlton Callender on that saxophone. You could have gone on with Stevie. And to all of you beautiful people of Louisa, I am a daughter of Louisa. My sister and my brother-in-law back there, I can't look over them. And you have two people who came down from Washington. They had to step out because she's got to go and do a Zoom real quick, but they'll be back. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't first acknowledge that it's been a difficult week for America. It's been a difficult week. And as they say, when America gets a cold, Black America gets pneumonia. And we found out something new now, something else. When America gets a cold, Black America gets the blame for it. And I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go there. Even as we gather here to celebrate and commemorate the progress of a great people, as we remember a people who literally prayed their way, sang their way, wrote their way, fought their way, and worshiped their way out of enslavement. When Hope Unborn had died, we still come holding places in our hearts for others who are suffering around the world and here at home. When we think of all of those beautiful ice skaters on that airplane from Wichita, Kansas, and then that mother and child, and those paramedics on that medevac plane that crashed just last night in Philadelphia, and all of those who lost their homes and lives in California, we realize that as difficult as circumstances may seem for us, there is so much more room inside of us to extend love and compassion for others. That's just the kind of people that we are. One of my favorite Bible verses is Isaiah chapter 40, verse 1, in which God says, "Comfort ye. Oh, comfort ye, my people." It is in that mindset that I come before you today in my clergy attire, my journalistic mindset, and just a few professorial tools. And I dedicate this moment in my life to this young lady who I never met, Miss Kia Duggins, one of the 67 people killed in the Wichita plane crash. She is a fellow Harvard alum. She was a civil rights lawyer who was set to teach at Howard University Law School this fall. As I begin my word, I should warn you that it's kind of raw. We have children in the room. So if it comes time for you to cover their ears, I'll just go like this. Because I will be using a certain word that none of us want to hear. But I sense that I should say it directly. It was in 1964 when my father and my mother moved us and our family down into literally the woods, about a quarter of a mile or so below Purcell Store. We had no running water, no indoor plumbing. Well, a lot of us didn't. It's new to some people, but a lot of us didn't. And I was a wanderer. I was the kind of child, a little like Dr. Knuckle. I just sensed things. I moved by sensory, and I would go in the woods, find my way back, leave my tricycle down there. And Mama tells me now, or she tells me, I don't even remember when you were a child because I was always moving around like a little adult. And so I decided one day that I would, when we first moved deep down below Purcell's store, that I would go up on the hill. And because I wanted to see what was up there. I wanted to go and find the people and see what neighborhood this is. And so I came upon this little white boy who was playing alongside the road. He was in the dirt and he was pushing a little block along like it was a car. It was just a makeshift car. And I asked him his name and he told me, I won't use his name today because he might be still somewhere and I don't want to embarrass him in Louisa. But he was playing with me. I was playing with him. We had exchanged names when his mother in the house called out from the kitchen. And she said, "What are you doing?" And he, in his sweet innocence, he answered her, "I'm playing with the nigger." Now, it was 1964. I didn't know exactly what that was, but Dr. King was railing and they had water hose on people on the TV, black and white. So I knew it was something about that word that it did not belong to me. So I took my little bare feet and ashy legs back down in the woods and went on about my business. I told my siblings about what had happened. That was the first time that I was called the N-word to my face. The second time was 1995 or so. Middle class professional reporter with the Richmond Free Press. We received a report that a white man in either Chesterfield or Henrico County had set up a Halloween scene in his yard. And the Halloween scene was a black man hanging in effigy. He had little white Klansmen hanging from the trees all around him. So I went out there. It was little I wasn't scared, and as I grew old, I was never scared. And so I went out there to his yard, and he wasn't home. So I waited for him on the front steps. He showed up in a pickup truck with a Confederate flag in the window. And I told him that African Americans were offended by his display. And he looked down on me just like that little white boy was looking up at me. He looked down on me and he said to me, "I don't even call you African Americans. I call you niggers." If that word hurts your ears, imagine what it did to that little 4-year-old. And imagine or 5-year-old, imagine what it did to that reporter. But I had to keep on, you know how we do, just keep on writing. Mm-hmm. And it went in the paper. The next time I was called the N-word to my face was 1999. In the upper echelon of American society, a student at Harvard University, walking through Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I was on my way home to the dorm to have dinner that evening, and I passed by this man sitting on the sidewalk, on the raised part of the sidewalk. And it just seems like with all the bellicose he could find in his belly, he said that one word as I passed by: nigger. I sped up. It was on the edge of dark. I went into the dorm, told some of my white friends, I was at Harvard, so it wasn't a whole lot to choose from. So I told some of my white friends, and I know this gentleman named Robin, who was one of my fellow students. He was from Canada. Another one named Darcy. He was a police officer because we were in graduate school, a police officer. And Robin and Darcy pulled together some more, and they went looking for him. Fortunately, they did not find him. But I thought it was over. I had gone my way from the poor child to the middle class reporter to the upper echelon in society. How many times can you be called that word to your face? I thought it was over. Never again would I be called that word, at least not to my face without consequences. And yet when I came home to Louisa 5 years ago to take care of my darling dear mother, you know her, Marie Trice, the singer. And every day, and most of you see me, I go walking. Most of y'all see me go to Food Lion and back. And I've met some of the most gracious, the kindest people, black and white, people of all races, have been amazingly genteel in that Louisa kind of way. But there is a dark spot, a blight, if you will, an irreverent monument to white supremacy, complete with a carving of the Confederate flag, located in front of all places, 100 West Main Street, the Louisa Circuit Courthouse. There stands a statue in honor of the Confederate Army that fought for the enslavement of my ancestors and black people everywhere. It is a relic that every time I walk past it, it whispers, nigger. In front of a courthouse dedicated to equal justice under the law, as established in the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, this monument is emblazoned on the back with the words, in memory of the courage, patriotism, and devotion of the Confederate soldiers of Louisa County. It was paid for by the Daughters of the Confederacy. It was dedicated along with the courthouse in 1905. They say more than 10,000 people gathered for the occasion. 5 years ago in 2020, thousands convened and marched against it, pointing out that it was placed there during a time that the old Confederacy was much on the minds of many Southern whites, and they used such monuments across the South to attempt to intimidate, to frighten us, and keep us in our places. Yet it remains today, at this very moment, with the carving of the same Confederate flag that was painted on the license plate of Dylan Roof in 2015, the 21-year-old white boy who studied the Bible with a group of black people and their pastor at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, before he shot and killed 9 of them in cold blood because they were black. It's the flag of the Aryan nations and the Ku Klux Klan responsible for the lynching of more than 3,000 black men across the South since the Civil War. I have a book. This is the professorial part. This book is called Without Sanctuary. I don't recommend it to anybody. It will live with you for days, if not months, after you look at it. This is a book that features photographs of lynchings across the South. Many of these photographs come from postcards in which the Confederacy lovers bragged about what they had done. Many of these pictures are of children with their parents, smiling, happy to see a black man hanging from a tree. This one I'm looking at that I won't show you because it's sensitive is the burning of Negro Smith in 1908. Notice the proximity of the years. The Confederate monument was built in Louisa in front of that courthouse and dedicated in 1905. This is the burning alive of a black man in Greenville, Texas. I'm looking now at the one that I consider, all of them are sad, but I consider this one the saddest. This is 1911, the lynching of Laura Nelson and her son in Oklahoma. They're hanging from a bridge. Her son got into some trouble, but you didn't even have to get in trouble as a black man. They had him in jail. She went to see what she could do to get her child out of jail. And they decided, well, we'll just lynch them both. We don't even have to go that far away to Texas and Oklahoma. What is emblazoned on the back of that Confederate statue in our beloved Louisa, 100 West Main Street? It was the flag carried by the hundreds who marched through Charlottesville, coming on home, in the white supremacist protest that resulted in the death of civil rights activist Heather Heyer in 2017. And no doubt it was present, and you may not know about this, in 1892, when Joe William Anderson, a black man of Louisa, was taken by a mob from the jail of the Louisa courthouse at around 2 a.m. on July 6th, 5 days before he was to be tried. They hung him in a tree across the railroad tracks. I'm determined to see if that tree is still there. You know, they're putting up markers now to show where the evils were done to us. Though the black newspaper, the Richmond Planet, denounced the lawless mob, demanding that the governor and that the Louisa County Sheriff bring these murderers to justice, no arrest was ever made. Even now, Louisa lawyers argue their cases with that symbol of injustice, hate, and sedition at their backs. One of those lawyers is Terrence Riche Robinson. Terrence, are you here? Stand up, Terrence. Terrence Riche is chairman of the group Louisa United, which has vigorously fought for the transference. We're not even saying tear it down and throw it away and get rid of it. We have fought, and I have fought alongside them for the transference of the statue to an appropriate venue, rather than in front of a circuit courthouse. One of the people who has been lobbied to that end is Mr. Dwayne Adams, chairman of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors. In December, I attended the Christmas tree lighting in Courthouse Square. where Chairman Adams was the keynote speaker. He stood on the front steps facing the carving of the Confederate flag, that carving on the back of the Confederate flag. He was facing it because he was standing on the courthouse steps. Speaking on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, Chairman Adams, to his credit, he spoke about the Christ child. And I quote, you see, I'm a reporter, so you know I was recording. Okay. He said, the child who showed us that loving your neighbor, loving yourself, treating people with respect, that child changed the world. That child changed my life, he said. And so tonight, I'm still quoting him, when I think about the specialty of Christmas, it's what we do in our community. It's how we treat each other. It's how we treat our community. It's the respect we have for each other. And what makes Louisa County a special place is the people of Louisa County. And when I look out tonight, he said, and I see all the children that are here, what I want us all to remember is what Christmas is really about, is faith and family and what we can do together to continue to make Louisa County special, to keep the true meaning of Christmas in our hearts. And I got some ideas of what you can do. All of that was truly wonderful. And I applaud Mr. Adams for those powerful sentiments. The only thing about it is that I wondered if he and others noticed that I was the only black person in the audience that night. And as we all stood around the Confederate statue, which they had decorated with Christmas lights, y'all, I wondered how they would explain to the children why that symbol of white supremacy, that symbol of hatred and intimidation, that symbol that stood for a divided America, remains on the grounds of an institution of justice. As I close, one other thing occurred to me that night, and it was almost laughable. It occurred to me, and I got a little chuckle out of it, that the entire Christmas theme for Louisa in this past December was based on the story How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Here's the program. See the Grinch? The whole thing, the Christmas parade, the Christmas tree, everything. I mean, there were Grinches all in the stores, Grinches here, Grinches there. There were Grinches everywhere. I mean, you know Dr. Seuss. Yeah, they were. But what occurred to me, if they haven't listened to the thousands of people, if they haven't listened to Terrence Richet and all of those who follow him on Louisa United calls, if they haven't listened to the protesters, and if they haven't noticed the resistance to Black people even gathering there in any numbers, they call it the town square, the courthouse square, and they think it's such a wonderful place to be. I wondered if they might take a lesson from the Grinch. We all remember watching it when we were little. We couldn't wait till the Grinch Stole Christmas came on. You know, he stinks, stank, stunk. Remember that line? And after the Grinch had heaped all kinds of mental and emotional cruelty on the people of Whoville, after he had stolen all their gifts and toys and decorations and trees, he was confounded by what happened next. He thought he had it all. He thought he had taken everything they had. But on Christmas morning, after he tried to take everything from them, and he was dragging that huge sleigh toward the cliff, he heard in the valley what he couldn't believe. He listened.
Yes.
Could it be? Every who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming, Dr. Seuss said. It came somehow or other. It came just the same. What happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say, the Grinch's small heart, because he listened and because he heard, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 times that day. He tried to recover the Christmas toys. He tried to pull the sleigh back, but it was a struggle. Y'all know it. Y'all remember that part. And you was like, get it, get it, get it, get it. There was so much he had taken, he couldn't lift it alone. And then the true meaning of Christmas came through. And the Grinch found the strength of 10 Grinches plus 2. You know the rest of the story. Louisa, it's going to be a heavy lift to move and transfer that statue. But it must and it will be done. It must be done because we have won. I hear and I know what they will say. We lynched them. We beat them. We burned them alive. We lied on them. We oppressed them, and still they survive. We called them monkeys, built a statue with a gate. We took all their rights, and still, they celebrate. Let us unite and build something new. Let us do it for the children and for our businesses too. The story ends saying Christmas Day will always be just as long as we have we. Welcome Christmas while we stand heart to heart and hand to hand. We shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. Open the curtain. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we